Chess friends, I hope you are doing well. Today, I am going to show you game 2 between the new chess AI, Princess, and the strongest chess engine, Komodo Chess Dragon. This game illustrates the powerful and strategic brilliance of Princess, which she employed during the game. I am very excited and amazed to share this brilliant game with you, so, let's get started without wasting any time. She started the game with e4, Komodo played e5, and we have knight to f3. Here, Black can play different types of moves on the second turn, but he chooses a very unusual opening, queen to e7, of course, that is a book move that we initiated. Consequently, c6 followed in the game to prevent any sort of knight entry. Therefore, Princess struck in the center with d4. The problem for Black is that if he dares to capture the pawn, after queen takes d4, the most powerful piece will be activated in the center. In the worst case scenario, your knight doesn't have the c6 square to reclaim control. Thus, a few moves later, when bishop g5 and long castle occur, White will apply pressure from all sides of the board, completely dominating the opening. That's why, going back to the position, we didn't see any pawn exchanges in the center. We have d6, followed by bishop c4 to gain control over the diagonal. A few moves later, when the bishop is protecting that pawn, and noticing that Black has a very small structure where bishop g4 can arrive, Black also initiate heavy attacks by pushing his queenside pawns forward. Dragon shocks Princess by playing b5, immediately attacking the white pieces because he wants to develop his pieces as soon as possible. Later, we have h6, again, he is preventing any sort of knight entry point because it would be a dangerous move. So, after h3 by Princess and a3 in the game, we have bishop e7. You can see that Black still has a very small central defense, which is why Princess played a stunning move in the AlphaZero style. Can you guess what she played? I think you can, because it's easy to find. That move is of course, g4, because g5 can ruin Black's position. Later, when g5 occurs, you can see that these pieces are putting pressure on the h6 pawn. That's why many chess players might consider moving the knight back to g8 to protect the pawn. However, it's a completely fragile move because after d takes e5 and the pawn capture happens, White can make a brilliant move that you cannot imagine at all. Even Magnus Carlsen would need 10 to 15 minutes to calculate that move. The move is knight to d5. What a brilliant sacrifice, because after you capture, queen takes d5 arrives, attacking the rook. At this point, many players, almost every player, might consider bishop e7, attacking the queen. After queen takes f7, the king moves, and long castle arrives, attacking the king. As the knight moves to d7, White will make another brilliant sacrifice. Can you guess what it is? Noticing that the bishop can arrive at e6, the rook has an open file, and the knight is attacking the e5 pawn, White makes a daring sacrifice in this position, that is of course, Levi's rook sacrifice, sacrificing the rook, because after the capture and knight takes e5, the queen must move somewhere to avoid further attacks. Then, rook check followed by queen to e8 check will occur. After the bishop blocks, bishop to e6 arrives, checking the king. It's like Princess is giving thunderbolt shocks to the Black king from all directions. Even if Dragon plays king b8, the square is protected. Therefore, after rook takes d8, the position will be completely lost for Black. Princess will win the game by winning the queen. So, let me share an inspirational quote in sudden with you. Don't compare your life to others. There's no comparison between the sun and the moon, they shine when it's their time. So, going back to the position, we see that moving the knight back to g8 is a very bad choice. That's why, after the exchanges on g5 and the additional pressure on the f7 pawn, Black cannot play any normal moves, such as short side castling, because after rook g1, White will gain a significant advantage, noticing that the queen and rook files will be wide open. A few moves later, queen to g2 will arrive with a bold attack along this diagonal. As the knight moves back to protect the pawn, it doesn't matter. A spy can still enter the castle, through the toilet with knight to e6, creating pressure on these pieces. After the exchanges, the king has to run, and queen to g6 will arrive, followed by rook to g5. You can see that rook h5 is approaching with the idea of checkmating the black king, and the position will be completely lost for black. Princess will win the game again and prove that she is better than all the top chess engines, including Torch, me, and Dragon. However, Dragon doesn't want to let that happen, which is why in this position, we see rook to f8, followed by f4, to open up the f5 file. The knight comes to d7, and a couple of moves later, you can see the bishop being attacked by the pawn. Here, Princess played a very authentic and admirable move, bishop takes f7, sacrificing the bishop. After the capture, Princess didn't take the rook right away, instead, she played queen to f3, giving black the opportunity to save the rook. However, doing so would be a devastating choice. White can play a significant and adventurous move, knight to e6, attacking these pieces. As the queen moves, knight takes g7 check will arrive, since king to d8 is not possible due to knight to e6, after king f7 followed by queen g2, I can check you on the g6 square. This will lead to checkmate in a few moves if you don't play correctly. The game is now in Princess's hands. So, going back to the position, we realize that the rook cannot be saved. Dragon becomes upset and retreats his queen to the b8 square, so, after the knight capture and recapture, we have queen to g3 to put pressure along this file. A couple of moves later, we have long castle to gain access to this file. Princess is very determined to defeat Komodo because she is like a lion in front of a Komodo lizard. Komodo gets angry and declares war by playing b4, he wants to let the pawn capture occur, followed by a3, to open up these files. Therefore, Princess plays defensively and captures the pawn on the a3 square. A couple of moves later, you can see that we have some repetition of moves, and d takes e5 happens again. Capturing the pawn on e5 is a very bad choice, which is why Komodo just captures the knight instead. After the exchanges, we have e5 played by Princess. She wants to attack these pawns to open up the king's file. In fact, the king's file becomes wide open. At this point, many players might consider f takes e5, but this is a completely bad move because Princess can counter with g5 check. It would be a very disrespectful slap, especially when a female AI slaps a human. It's obviously shameful. After knight f6, queen takes f6 will arrive, and the game will end in checkmate in a few moves. So, going back to the position, we discover that f takes e5 is a very bad choice. That's why after knight takes e5, we have a queen check followed by bishop to c5 check. Noticing that the rook has an open file, Princess tactically exchanges queens and bishops. There is a check, and rook to g8 attacks along this rank. A couple of moves later, at the end of the day, it's rook versus knight and a black rook. Princess has a very strong outside passed pawn, and she needs to push it forward at any cost to promote to a new queen. That's exactly what she did in the game. In the end, we saw rook and knight exchanges, and she promoted to a new queen and soon checkmated Komodo. This game was very crucial and adventurous, and I hope you enjoyed it. If so, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Wishing you all the best. Bye bye, take care and see you soon.